Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It is September 13th, 2018, and we're underway at 7 p.m. Starting off our agenda tonight, we'll have our invocation, and tonight Councilmember Fredericks will handle that task, and then we'll follow that with the pledges of allegiance to the American and Texas flags. So if you would please rise for the invocation and pledges.
O Lord, we come before you today to thank you for all your blessings that you have given us. You are the source of all our generous blessings. We thank you for the opportunity to come and gather today to serve the people of our community. Renew in us the spirit of service. We ask for your hand of blessing upon this meeting and ask that you guide and direct us so that our meeting is full of wisdom and respect. Help us accomplish our goals while displaying your character. We ask also that you give comfort to the families of those that lost loved ones 17 years ago during the tragedies that unfolded on September 11, 2001. We ask for your blessing upon our community. May you watch over and protect those who work in service to it. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, next up we have several public hearings. Selena, do we have anyone sign up to speak?
No, we did not.
Okay. We are required to read the public hearings, so we will open and close each one as they're read. The first one up is item number 2 on our agenda, and we'll open this public hearing at 7:02. And this public hearing is to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on a request by LNF-1 LLC for a change in zoning from pre-development district to a single-family residential district, which is R1, for 57.531 acres of newly annexed properties located generally on Gulm Road and more particularly described as a 27.502 acre tract of land, Bear Appraisal District Property ID number 236292, and a 30.029 acre tract of land, Bear County Appraisal District ID number 236320. Having no one signed up to speak, we'll close this public hearing at 7:03. We'll open the next public hearing, which is item number 3 on our agenda, and we'll open at 7:03. And this public hearing is to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on a resolution of the City Council of the City of Helotes, Texas, approving appropriations for the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation, EDC, their fiscal year ending maintenance and operating, interest and sinking and capital budgets beginning October 1, 2018 and ending September 30th, 2019. To support the EDC's programs, projects as defined by Texas Local Government Code Chapter 505, Type B corporations and cooperatives, authorizing the city administrator and EDC executive director to take all necessary steps to implement the provisions of this resolution, incorporating recitals, providing for severability, and adopting an effective date. And we'll close this public hearing at 7:04. The next public hearing is item number 4 on our agenda. We'll open it at 7:04. This public hearing is to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on proposed City of Helotes fiscal year ending 2019 budgets, including but not limited to the General Maintenance and Operations Fund, Debt Service, which is Interest and Sinking Fund, Capital Replacement Fund, Municipal Court Security and Technology Funds, Police Training and Education Funds, School Safety Fund, Public Access Channel Fund, Police State Forfeiture Fund, Street Maintenance Fund, and Hotel Occupancy Tax Fund budgets. And we'll close that public hearing at 7:05. And the last one is item number 5 on the agenda, and we'll open this at 7:05. And this public hearing is to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on the adoption of the proposed tax year 2018 ad valorem property tax rate. And by golly, we'll close that one at 7:05. Next up, we have our open session, citizens to be heard. Selena, nobody?
Nobody.
Okay. We will pass that and go on to our consent agenda. For those of you that are new to this form of a meeting, a consent agenda is just something that's used to expedite the meeting. And that means that multiple items can be joined together, and those are items that are considered to be fairly routine by not only me, but the staff. And so we lump them into the consent agenda. Tonight it's items 7 through 15. And the council has the prerogative of asking questions. If that question can be answered fairly briefly, then we'll address it that way. Or they have the option, if they want to discuss the item, to ask that it be pulled from the consent agenda and moved down into the part of the agenda where we would discuss it with the other items for individual consideration. I would like to point out to council that you have a notation on the dais from our auditor, and this is for item number 10. And the reason that she wrote this, as you see, is I called her and asked her a few questions that I felt might come up, and one of them was with Susan being the second, Tabby being the second investment officer, because she's city treasurer, and being subordinate to the city administrator, who's the primary investment officer, if that could be considered a problem. And she didn't see a problem with it when we talked, and I asked her to follow that up with an email, which she did. And then she had a couple of other suggestions that Rick said have been incorporated into the text of this. So if you're good with that, then we can go ahead with the consent agenda in total. But are there any questions on items 7 through 15, or any requests to pull an item?
Yes, sir.
A question?
I have a quick question on two of the items. Item number 11, I know Tabby Durr is our city treasurer now. I thought Susan Wooten was going to be kind of still advising a little bit? Or
She does.
She's still doing that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
she comes in.
okay. All right, she's just going to come in part-time and
Yeah.
kind of make the transition a
She
little
works from the
smoother?
house, but she comes in here generally about once a month at a minimum.
Okay. And then on item 13, the $5,400 that the EDC is paying the city for administrative and things like that, is that about the same that we're paying last year? Do you remember, Rick?
Yes, it was, and I asked Rick about it, and he said it still covers everything. So
Still covers
we won't-
everything?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had.
Because my intent was to raise it a little, but if it covers everything, then we're good.
That's all I had, Mayor.
And that's up to you guys, of course. Anybody else? Okay, then I would ask for a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 7 through 15.
Mayor, I'd make the motion that we approve items 7 through 15.
We have a motion from Meadows to approve consent agenda items 7 through 15. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion from Meadows, a second from Blue to approve consent agenda items 7 through 15. No further questions being asked. I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda items 7 through 15 are approved. That takes us to item 16, which is the first up on our items for individual consideration. This is discussion of an action on a request by CDT Sign Services for approval of a variance to Chapter 66 signs, specifically for the FedEx office down at Walmart. So if I can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this variance request, please.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, we discuss and take action on 16.
We have a motion from Buys. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Fredericks. Bert, it's your motion, so you're up.
I agree with the recommended approval from p and Z that says that that we need to do this variance for the commercial sign for FedEx.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Paul?
We've done it for others, so, on Walmart, so the Subway and stuff, so I think we're obligated to do it for FedEx, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, Cynthia?
I think it looks fine, too. So, yeah.
Jim?
I agree. I love the addition of what they're putting in there, but is there any limitation if they started having 20, 30, 40 businesses that might be sublet in there? Is any limitation the way it's currently written?
I don't think they have room for that many.
I understand, but hypothetically.
Yeah. I'd have to look at that section of the ordinance. I'm pretty sure there's probably a limit somewhere in there.
Well, one of the variance requests, the reason for the variance is they've already exceeded the numbers that they can have on the
Right.
building.
Right.
For
So
Walmart.
the only catch to that would be council denying a future application saying there's already too many signs on the building.
In other words, they'd have to come for a variance just like this one and all
So it's
the other.
incumbent upon us to monitor what's going on beyond the
Yes, sir.
basic allowance.
And like I said, right now they have just Subway and FedEx.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
All I had.
Alex?
I don't have an issue with it. I think it's appropriate for, given the size of the building.
Okay. Bert, any follow-up?
No, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the variance for the FedEx sign on Walmart, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 17, discussion of an action on a request by Aetna Sign Group Limited for approval of a master sign plan for the Helotes Point Retail Center, which is down south on Bandera Road, that new center down there. So if we can have a motion and a second to discuss this one, that would be great.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we discuss and take action on 17, please.
Have a motion from Buys. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Who was that, Alex? We have a motion from Buys, a second from Blue. So Bert, it's your motion, you're up again.
Okay, this property is, I mean, that area is the overlay district, right? Yes, sir. Okay, and this is zoned for this type of property, right? And they don't need any variances, so I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, there are
Is
no-
that pretty much, there is no variances required for it? I mean, they're not asking for any.
The master sign plan that they're presenting matches the wall signage criterion code, so it would not require variance as presented. Now, there may be future tenants that want something larger.
Bigger sign.
And they would have to submit a variance
Yeah.
application at that time.
But at this time, there is not, so I don't have a problem with this. I'm for this.
Alex?
No, I'm completely in favor. I'm glad that they went the route of the master sign plan because I think it's important. It's a whole lot easier for the tenants, the landlord, the city staff, and everybody when there's a master sign plan because it prevents us from having to look at these over and over every time. They can just flow through very easily. And I think, especially since it complies with all of our guidelines, I'm completely in favor.
Jim?
I agree with Alex. I think the idea of having a master sign design plan is an excellent idea. Hopefully something we can replicate.
Cynthia?
Oh, I have no issues with it at all.
Paul?
It's fine with me.
No, I think it looks good. I don't have any issues with it at all.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the master sign plan, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Takes us to 18, which is the official ballot for the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool Board of Trustees. And of course, we have in place 11, our own Rick Schroeder, our infamous city administrator. And did anyone, looking at place 2, did anyone have any questions about Rick or any of the other candidates there? Place 12, what we're trying to do tonight is just see if you guys look at any one of these people as a candidate that you want to name. If it helps, I looked at Kimberly Meismer from Kerrville, because she's Region 7, and we're in Region 7 for TMLs, and so
That's who I chose also.
okay.
I don't know what everybody else said.
Jim, any names
No, sir,
punch out to you? Are you okay with that one?
I'm okay with that one.
Alex?
No, sir, I would defer to your judgment.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Cynthia?
Me too.
Again, I don't know her. It's just that she's in our region, so, and from Kerrville, so that's good enough for me. Anybody for place 13? We had two candidates there, Byron Black and Mike Jones. Byron Black is the incumbent, been there a long time, has served as chair and vice chair is what I read. And then Mike Jones works for an appraisal district.
I picked Byron also.
Okay, Jim?
I would stay with the incumbent at this point.
Okay, Alex? Good for you? Good for you guys? Okay, place 14, I made a note here of David Harris. David's the city administrator for Balcones Heights, and I visit with him quite a bit at different meetings that I go to in the county, and he's a sharp guy, and that's who I would recommend unless you guys have somebody else. But David is very active with the GBCCC and other organizations.
That's who I picked also. I've met Mr. Harris many times at meetings, and he's a really sharp man.
Yeah.
And he really takes his job serious.
Okay, so everybody
For me,
good with that? Okay, so our ballot from here would read Rick Schroeder, place 11, Kimberly Meismer, place 12, Byron Black, place 13, and David J. Harris, place 14. Okay.
Did we
with
need
that,
to officially state Rick Schroeder for place 11?
Mayor, we never made a motion though, sir.
Huh?
I don't think we did.
No, you're right. I was too excited to get into the names, but we'll do that now. So now that we have the names agreed upon, then you can go ahead, whoever wants to make the motion, just make the motion to have the names that we discussed apply.
I'll make the motion that we move forward with the names we've discussed here on the dais.
Okay, do we have a second? We have a motion from Meadows. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second from Fredericks. Okay, that being said, any other discussion from anybody? Okay. Well, the city secretary has made a note of that along with Rick. I'm sure he at least put his name, checked by his name. So we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion to approve the names that were discussed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And that brings us to our last item, which is presentation and discussion on the proposed City of Helotes fiscal year ending 2019 budgets. And Rick, I think, has a copy for you guys on the dais. And Rick, you want questions first, or you want to go over your numbers?
I actually will be brief. I have really three comments from the last iteration to this one. Essentially, looking at the general fund first, the fund balances, both the beginning and the ending fund balances, have remained exactly the same as was presented to you 2 weeks ago. Revenues and expenditures within the general fund have gone up $62,504, still resulting in a zero net result, which is, of course, a balanced budget. The only other fund that had any significant changes in it would be the capital fund. The street maintenance sales tax fund. And the only reason for that is we're getting so close to the end of the fiscal year that we have several large contracts, and we have paid $0 on those contracts thus far. With all the weather, I don't know when we're gonna get invoiced for that work, for the street improvement projects that we've been working on. And so at this point, I've moved what we anticipated in spending at the end of this fiscal year to the subsequent fiscal year. No real difference in numbers other than it went from the projected year end to the next fiscal year's budget. Everything else within the fund, within all of the funds, are relatively the same within a few $1,000s here, plus or minus.
And if you remember, the project was the one-course surface treatment on most streets, and then we put that Onyx Seal emulsified oil on Leslie and Scenic Loop, as well as in some areas over the one-course surface treatment. I think we're probably 95% complete. Justin, that's pretty close, right? We just have those few streets. And like Rick said, the weather has kept them from doing the last, and they still, we have some striping to do on Leslie Road, which is the arrows and the stop bars and those kinds of things that a different crew does, but the rain hit before they got to it, so we're just waiting for the rain to clear. And I would like to point out, I just was running some quick numbers. It looks to me, and Rick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but our property tax and sales tax are getting even closer together. The property tax is 36.6% of the budget revenues, and the sales tax is 32.2. So we're getting more balanced, and that's a good thing. And I noticed too, Rick, you have the employee benefits rate sheet. Was there anything there that needs to be pointed out to the council?
No, sir. All of the rates that we discussed at the prior meeting are still...
These are the same?
Everything is still the same. We have made the switch and have gone through the enrollment process with Blue Cross Blue Shield for both health and dental, I believe.
Yeah.
One of them is going to Dearborn, but again, there's no substantive difference because Dearborn owns Blue Cross Blue Shield. And then we've remained the same with the basic life, short-term and long-term disability benefits as well. Those stayed with standard insurance.
Okay, so we'll start, see if there are any questions on the numbers. Jim, you want to kick it off?
I have
You
no
good?
questions.
Alex?
I don't have any additional questions. I would like to thank the city administrator for following through with providing the specific numbers on the items listed on each of the pages. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Bert?
I don't have any questions about the budget, but can I ask a question about the street,
Sure.
that deal? I had a citizen call me saying that there was some damage from the recent rains that we're having. What is the warranty on our street repairs that we're doing now?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
No.
I'm just kidding you.
I'm sorry. I know this doesn't have to do with the budget, I'm sorry, but,
Referring to the asphalt that lifted up on Mesquite Flat?
yes, sir.
Okay, I saw that today. First off, to answer your question, there's a 12-month warranty period for all the different types of projects we did because we required a 12-month municipal maintenance bond on those. So we have insurance in the sense that we have bonding coverage on those. The contractors typically don't want to have a city go against their bonding, and so we've been told by both contractors that they will warranty the work for 12 months.
Okay.
In that case, to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure that that is a failure of the one course, because it literally, the water lifted up the entire, what was there prior, plus the one course, and made probably, a 3x3 area that went down to the base material. So that's probably something that we're gonna fix in-house by cutting it out and patching that.
All right.
And that same area did that in August of 2007 when we had that major rain event also.
Yeah.
Day-
That's a low water crossing right in there.
What day in August 2007?
August 7th.
Okay, thank you.
On that note, I did drive all the streets today where the work was done.
Yes, sir.
I believe Justin was right behind me because I saw him on the road. That was the only location where I saw any damage to the roads, particularly where we had completed work recently.
Okay. And is there one other question? Sure. This has to go back to how's the new fire truck coming along? Anything new?
Yeah, it's ordered, and I asked.
I knew that.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah.
Chief, can you come up to the mic, please?
Sorry, Chief.
Go ahead and step up to the podium, Chief.
I actually got news yesterday that the sheet metal cutouts have been completed. It's In the factory, they basically do all the sheet metal cutouts and they put them on a giant rack and put it in line. So all the sheet metal cutouts have been done. It's number 2 on the line right now, so the welding should start probably Monday.
Awesome.
So hopefully we'll have a cab to look at in pictures within a week or 2.
So the cost hasn't changed or anything?
No, sir, not yet.
And the cost
Actually,
actually,
it went down.
Actually, it went down somewhat.
Wonderful. Very good. Thank you.
It went down due to prepayment.
yeah, we prepaid both the fire truck, or the fire engine, and the ambulance. And Frazier gave us a 1%, which didn't amount to much, about $1,500. But
KME?
thank you. KME gave us a substantial discount of around $11,000 off the price of the vehicle.
Which had come down over 100,000 by
Yes.
choosing the truck that we did.
Initially,
Yeah.
we had come down substantially.
Okay, thank you.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Paul, anything?
I'm good, I believe.
Thank you.
I'm fine.
Okay, well, as before, if something does hit you on going over these numbers, feel free to contact either Rick or me, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. But everything, it's nice to see our revenue projections going up. We still feel we're conservative on those. And of course, the expenses, we keep balanced because that's what we're required to do. So next time, we will look to you guys to approve the budget and do the formalities on all of the other things that go along with that budget approval. And by golly, that finishes our agenda, which isn't too bad, less than 30 minutes for what we had. But if there are no other questions or no objections. what
Just
you
one,
need-
one quick question for the administrator or the secretary is that, or for you, Mr. Mayor, if there's any chance of getting more communication from TxDOT about updates on what they're doing and when. I get nobody calling about what we're doing in the city of Helotes. I get multiple calls on what the heck is happening on Bandera Road. And since we have no control over it, I just wonder if there's any chance of getting out a weekly or even a daily thing, Selena, as far as what's going on.
I send a lot of emails to the people that are running this particular project, and we can start including you guys in that email trail.
That would be great.
To answer your question, of course, the rain has held them up on finishing the overlay and around the Riggs Road area and coming down the hill, and of course, the striping. But they told me, weather permitting, they hope to be totally finished with everything on Bandera Road by the end of September or the first week or so of October.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And they have been real responsive, as you know, removing the rocks from the median. Whenever we tell them about a problem with the signal lights, they come out and fix them right away. And they're getting the wait times for people down considerably from where they were. But it's all part of just finishing up the project and punching it out and making sure everything is as it's supposed to be. But we will include you guys on anything substantive.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no objections now, we will adjourn the meeting, and by golly, we're adjourning at 7:28.